Welcome to Thunderbolt. Today we're going to talk about what it is like to be a writer.
Yes.
And to do that, I've invited Brian.
Hey,
welcome.
Heeduk. Good to meet you, man.
All
Thanks.
right. So let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
That is your wonderful book.
My wonderful book. How do you know? It could be
And it is
horrible.
a novel, right?
Yes, it is.
So let's start with the first question. In the world of generative AI,
Yes.
ChatGPT, Bard, and all those things,
Right.
why is it still important for people to write?
Well, I think there's this sort of creative instinct that humans have, and we always want to create. So regardless of how advanced the technology will get, we'll always keep writing books, painting pictures, taking photographs, composing music, all of this kind of thing. I think it's this inherent urge we have, and it's tremendously satisfying to do it. So I think computers can't yet take that away.
Yes, because it's not just for the readers, it's also for the writers themselves.
Exactly.
To get into that creative process.
And I think people may have also made this argument years ago when the typewriter was invented and we stopped writing by hand, and then computers and word processing was invented, we stopped typewriting, and people maybe thought that the writing process would end, but it never has. So it continues.
All right.
Technology doesn't matter.
When we were talking about the process of you writing this book,
Right.
you had mentioned that your first trial, you wrote it with a computer, and then you switched to handwriting with this book.
That's right.
Was there an actual difference?
Yeah, so this is a book for young adults.
Right.
And so forcing myself to write it by hand made me slow down the pacing of my sentences. And by doing that, I was able to write smaller sentences, shorter sentences that appeal better to the age group we were aiming for. And it was also quite nice to do. It's felt kind of a classic thing to do. These legal pads and a pencil. I wrote it in Jeju Island a couple years ago, so it's quite nice. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you often see these writers, serious writers, instead of a MacBook or word processor, they pick up like a typewriter to type. So it does.
They like the sound of it. They like the feel of it, maybe, but typewriters might be too much for me. Pencil has an eraser. That's a little bit easier, I think.
All right. So let's get into the process of
Good.
You becoming a published author.
Okay.
So let's guide us step by step.
So I got interested in writing as a teenager when I was in middle school, and that came from my love of reading. So reading came first. I loved reading so much, and I thought, well, am I able to write what I love to read? So for example, I'd come up with an idea, like, I don't think that's a real book. Well, why don't I write it, right? And so that's kind of what the process is like. So with this particular one, you and I are, I think, maybe sort of the same age. We grew up with the Choose Your Own Adventure series of books where you choose.
Yeah, go to page 5, go to page 12.
Exactly.
12. Yeah.
Super fun, very interactive. So I thought, after teaching English in Korea for several years, can we make an interactive novel for kids to have that same sort of feeling, right, in English? And so that's why this came about. Originally, this was this.
Okay.
Now this is not the same. But this is what we call a pitch card. And this is something I created a couple years ago. And my friend and I took it to the Seoul International Book Fair, and we were pitching the idea of this to different publishers. And we found one. And then we got assigned an editor. And then over the course of like a year, or maybe a year and a half, this evolved into this. Different, but a little bit similar in some ways. And that was the process. It was quite smooth, actually, smoother than it should have been for many people, but yeah.
Were you aware of the process of becoming a published writer?
Right, so I have young adult fiction, but I also have adult fiction on the side that I tried to get published in New York. It was extremely difficult. And the process there is first you have to get a literary agent, and then once you get an agent, they submit to publishers, but getting that agent's quite competitive, difficult. Korea has a little bit of a different market. I think Korea's market is a bit younger still, so going directly to the publisher is still possible in some cases. So again, like I said, we got a bit lucky in this particular case. Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. And it's come to think of it, it's actually really bold for you to try to change the way people read in a way.
In a way, I think I was used to seeing these kind of boring textbooks that Korean kids have to read in school. And I wanted to like kind of jazz it up a little bit with what we remember as kids. So hopefully this does that trick. Yeah.
Good. All right, now, mentorship. Now, there must have been teachers or people who guided you in this process of you becoming an efficient writer.
Yeah, I think everyone has their own personal heroes they look up to. So other authors that you respect and maybe want to emulate their styles, or you read their books and feel like, I connect to their style. As far as more direct mentors, there was a teacher I had in high school, an English teacher, who, unbeknownst to me at the time, had taken some of my short stories and had submitted them to contests in America. And I was shocked to have won first place for one of them in a nationwide contest for short stories. So that was really an important move in my life because it taught me at a young age that maybe my writing's good, at least at that level, at that point, and it gave me a lot of inspiration to continue it, right? It was a really early success that I never forgot about.
A lot of parents, like I'm a parent myself.
Okay.
And as parents, we actually are torn between, okay, should I put my child into this competition? Because there's always a chance to lose,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So how important do you think it is to actually make that bold step and get yourself tested, get yourself, in a competition with other people and see if you're better than others?
Right. I think it's just, you have to assume you won't win. But don't go into it thinking you're going to win. It's a numbers game.
And how did you deal with rejections?
The general process is you get a lot of rejection. And so, again, that's just part of it. So you have to go into this field, if you want to get published, expecting the majority of things being rejected. But then again, you can't take it personally. So someone passing on a project just means that they're waiting for maybe another project you have in the future, right? And so you just have to kind of build on those rejections.
And the difficult part about rejection as a professional, I guess, or as an adult, is that they don't tell you why.
It's really hard to get personal feedback.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough. And it's so subjective because I'm sure with your music career and your demos that you made, they're your babies. You put so much work into them. You get it. And they reject you, you think, oh, they don't get it, right? They don't get the same thing I'm getting out of it. Why? It's hard. Yeah. It's really tough.
So expect rejection, and it's only a part
unfortunately,
of the process.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay.
Just keep going. I mean, because what's the other option? So like
that's very frank.
So like, I mean, look, you write because it's a passion in you. Okay, so continue the passion and get rejections along the way. I don't think it's a big deal. Yeah, it's just part of it.
Wow.
But if you're writing because you have to write and you get rejection, that would be really hard to deal with. But if you're writing because you love the craft, it doesn't really matter, right?
I love your enthusiasm and your optimism. No.
I have no other choice.
Good. I love it, though. I love it. All right, let's talk about rewarding aspect.
Okay.
What is the most rewarding aspect of your job here as a writer?
Right. There's been two that I can think of right off the top of my head. When this book was published, this publisher, again, like I said, I was quite lucky, is a major publisher of ESL material in Seoul. And so they had channels they put it out to, in the first 6 months of publication. And I could get on Naver, the Korean search engine, and search up this book. And I would find blogs from different mothers or educational facilities using my book. And I saw this blog once of a woman who put a video up of her son doing the online component of this book that the publisher had set up. It was really fun just to watch him go through and read my words. And I don't know him, I don't know his mom, I have no connection to their blog. That's quite satisfying. And another one, of course, is actually going to the bookstores, typing in your name, getting the little location and going to find it on the shelf. That's always really fun too.
Good.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Now, and since this is a show for our students, what advice do you have for students, kids who want to get his work published?
Right.
Or
so
her work, I guess.
I think it all has to start with reading. So I think you can't be an author unless you love reading. I assume you love listening to music.
Oh, yes.
Of course, right? And so if you're not interested in reading, I don't know how you can be a writer, right? So anyone who has a passion for reading, and I don't mean like the required reading at school, I mean like the free time reading, right? Develop that, and then look, when you read books, look for what you like about it. Why do you like Harry Potter? Is it because of the characters? Is it because of the world she created? Is it because of the character names or something? Try to define what pulls you in. And then at some point you might be inspired to create your own, even a small little effort, and then just let it go from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But do it for passion. Do it for fun.
Cool.
Because you want to do it.
Let's throw in an example, and I'll give you one
Okay.
first. So, for years, I was, very not interested in Harry Potter series.
Sure.
I didn't read it for almost 12 years.
Okay.
And then one day, I realized that there are people called Squib in it.
Okay.
And Squib are the people who had, parents who use magic, but they themselves don't have magic powers.
Oh, I see.
And I researched about it. Why did they put them there? Why did J.K. Rowling, the author, put those people in there?
Right.
And then later I realized that was one of the ways of J.K. Rowling telling the story how in the old days in Britain or in Europe, kings and nobles, the nobles and aristocrats, they marry within each other.
That's right. Yeah.
And as that kind of incest went on, there's always, people who didn't have
I see.
all the powers or
Okay.
things like that. So things of that nature. So that was really interesting to me. And after that point, I started reading just the part where the squibs appear.
Okay.
A very interesting way to start reading. And then finally, I read the whole thing.
I see.
But until I saw something that I liked about, which is part of European history.
Yeah, right.
I never really got to read Harry Potter and really enjoy it.
Okay. That's a good example of you finding something unique in there that pulled you in.
Yeah.
Versus what pulls other people in, I think.
Right.
Yeah. And J.K. Rowling could probably never have anticipated that somebody
Right.
in South Korea would have been pulled in by this reference to European history.
Right.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Oh, nice.
And what are some of the things that you look for when you read a book?
So I realize what I like when I read fiction, whether it's adult or for kids. I like reading something new and fresh, something that feels like I've never read before.
Earlier, we talked about why we still need humans to write.
Yeah, right.
And what you just said, you enjoying reading something that you have never seen before.
Yeah.
That's a question that you cannot ask ChatGPT. You cannot ask the AI.
That's
Tell me
true.
something that had not been written before.
It'd be hard to, right?
Right? Because AI is about the past.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Right? It's about what had been said before, what had been recorded.
That's true.
But our creative process, our mind's about what has never been heard or said. And it's your craft, your practice a lot so that you'll be able to express what's in your head, the music that you hear or the story that it's in my mind, in your head, to let it out there.
Right, exactly. Something that has not yet existed.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
My last question.
Okay.
And this also is for our students.
Okay.
Do you outline or do you write spontaneously?
I outline a lot.
Okay.
So I just wrote a new novel this year, an adult novel, and it's based on a short story I'd written 10 years ago, but never published. And for 10 years, it's been sitting in here somewhere. And about a year ago, I thought maybe I can bring it and create a novel out of it. Right? I can fully realize the story. So back in December last year, I started outlining it, where I would just creatively think about it every day. What are my characters? What are they doing? What's their motivations? What's happening? And then plot it all out. I have probably 20 pages of outline notes and thematical notes and all this kind of stuff about it. And then when it was ready to write, I think it was May this year, April or May, I sat down and just wrote it. The good thing about outlining is that there's no writer's block. You just sit down, like, I know exactly what I'm writing today. Finished. And the next day, I know exactly what I'm writing today. And the aha moments, the exciting moments, oh, wow, what a great idea, comes in the outlining phase, where you're like, aha, there's a good twist. Aha, this character's gonna do that, right? There's an expression in the writing world called plotters versus pantsers. You ever heard of that?
What's pantsers?
So we can imagine plotter, someone who plots the story, like
right.
what I do. Pantsers, pants. So it comes from the expression, off the seat of your pants. And it's to do something spontaneously.
Okay.
So there are a lot of writers who do that. Sit down, they don't know where they're going, just gonna let the flow take them and see where the characters go, I can't be a pantser. How about you, when you're a musician? Do you lay out the chords?
I'm a 100% plotter.
Yeah.
And there's a step-by-step process of making music.
Yeah.
Right? I put the drums
Okay.
and then bass. And there are set ways of getting things right. And even especially for pop music, pop songs, there are structures. There's the Let It Be structure.
Okay.
There are Beatles structures and there are styles that you follow.
Right.
And then
Different
you
chord
build on.
progressions and those things.
Right. Writers and musicians are known to be creative people in a way.
Yeah.
And I think only very rarely do students or people in general think that writer's gonna sit in his room or her room for 6-7 hours daily.
Right.
Right? They would not consider this to be like a daily craft.
Right.
But it is, isn't it?
It's whether it's actually physical writing every day or having it on your mind every
Right.
day. It's somewhere in between sometimes, yeah. So
And that's important. That was important to me also when I was fully engaged in music and producing. I would have to have 9 to 5, sit at the studio thinking about music projects and write music, contact people. It's a day job.
it could be, yeah,
Right?
for many people, right.
Cool.
What I really enjoy about writing is when being a plotter, I can put my headphones on, and go to a cafe, put my headphones on, and get some music that's the kind of background music or nothing that has any vocals that matches the tone of my book, and just go into the world. And I completely tune out everybody around me and just write. And when I'm at an ending for the day, a good ending, I stop, and then I have to like kind of break back into like reality a little bit, like disassociate from this little world and come back into like, oh, okay, I'm here at a cafe, okay, this kind of thing. But it's fun to lose yourself, and it's so immensely satisfying because when I do that, turn my computer off and close it, I leave the cafe, and my mind is like I feel like it's like a high, like an elevated feeling of happiness and joy and satisfaction.
Wow.
To have like created something. And then the best part is when you finish the book, you have to go back and edit. And that's even more satisfying because like you know the story, you know what's coming, but you're also now a reader. And you're like, okay. And like you feel like, oh, that was a great sentence, but this part needs a little help, you know. It's really fun, every little step and process.
I'm sure our students are blown away from all these information and talk. Thank you for your candor.
Yeah, sure. Well,
And, wow, it's a wonderful time. So,
yeah.
all right.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank
That was
you.
fun.
And our students, I'll see you the next time I see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.